HOA parking grab versus sprinkler justice, a Pine Grove triumph. I stood at the edge of my field, a letter in one hand, a hot coffee in the other, watching SUVs, vans, and golf carts roll onto my land like it was a store opening. No warning, no call. I reread the letter, then looked up as a kid jumped out of a fancy car and peed on my apple tree. For a second, I thought I was dreaming. Then the truth hit. The Pine Grove HOA had declared my private field a public parking lot, and they didn't even ask me to vote. The letter, signed by Margaret Stone, Pine Grove HOA president and self-styled neighborhood queen, was smug. For community convenience, it said, your nearby land is now a temporary parking area for the Pine Grove HOA yearly party and events. No permission, no talk, just them acting like my field, cared for over years, was theirs. A cheery map marked it event parking. I marched to the HOA office that afternoon, letter in hand, and dropped it on Margaret's desk. She barely looked up from her computer, giving a fake smile. "Oh, hi, Daniel Reed," she said sweetly. "I thought you'd love helping the neighborhood." I told her my field wasn't empty, wasn't forgotten, wasn't public, it was mine. She waved a hand. Unused land is wasted land. This is for everyone's good. Everyone's good? Since when was turning my field into a picnic spot good for me? The next few days were awful. Cars poured in like they owned it. Lawn chairs popped up, grills smoked, kids tossed balls into my apple trees. 2 teens tied a volleyball net between my fence posts. No one asked, they just took. The HOA acted like it was a big party, not caring they had no right. What hurt wasn't just the rudeness, it was Margaret laughing with her friends about my old-fashioned land, like they were doing me a favor by wrecking it. That evening, watching the sun set behind a field full of vans, my anger turned to a plan. Pacing by my old shed, kicking grass, I tripped over a rusty hatch. My heart raced as I realized what it was, the old irrigation system my grandpa built. I opened it, finding a valve and pipes running under the field. A turn let out a hiss of water. It worked. A crazy, perfect idea hit me. I grinned as a splash wet a stray chair. They parked on my land? Fine, I'd give them a wet, muddy surprise they'd never forget. I felt calm, not because the problem was gone, but because I had a big, soggy plan. They wanted a party? I'd teach Margaret and her HOA about respecting boundaries. Before dawn, I grabbed coffee and went to the shed, excited like I'd won a prize. This wasn't just payback, it was fair. I dug through junk, finding Grandpa's irrigation plans behind old tools. Unrolling them, I smiled. Pipes, sprinkler heads, and drains covered the field. In big letters, flood mode. Grandpa joked it could send a horse flying. Then it was funny. Now it was my secret weapon. I spent hours crawling the field, brushing dirt to find sprinklers. Most were fine, a few needed fixes. The shed's pump, an old beast, roared to life with new bolts and a well hookup. By noon, I tested it. A valve turn sent water shooting across the edge. It worked like magic. I fixed connections, marked weak spots with sticks, aiming for a muddy mess to trap golf carts. That evening, I checked the neighborhood. Margaret's crew was setting up their big party like it was the event of the year, hanging signs, placing food stalls, handing out flyers. Pine Grove party, parking thanks to your neighbor. My neighbor? Like I gave it to them. I crumpled a flyer, planning my timing. Too soon, they'd move. Too late, they'd leave. It had to hit when the field was packed cars, tents, grills, total chaos. So, I played nice. The next day, I walked into their planning meeting with homemade chocolate chip cookies, real ones, not Margaret's store-bought kind. They loved them, eating and listening as I nodded to their boring plans. I even offered to mark safe parking spots, painting right over the strongest sprinklers. I suggested putting food trucks and the stage in the middle, perfect splash zones. Margaret, clueless, clapped. "I knew you'd get it," she said, thinking I'd given in. I smiled, imagining mud on her shoes. Nights, I worked on the system, oiling the valve for max flood. Days, I waved as they set up, hiding laughs when Margaret bragged about my team spirit. The night before, under stars, I checked every pipe. My field was ready, and I felt proud, not just for the land, but for what I'd prove. I barely slept, heart pounding, ready for action. Party day dawned bright. From my window, I watched cars roll in SUVs, sedans, guided by teens in vests. Margaret stood at the entrance, clipboard in hand, smiling smugly. By noon, my field was a fair, tents, food trucks, tables, loud music. Kids ran with balloons, adults ate barbecue, a band set up on a stage over the biggest sprinklers. A fancy tent with tablecloths sat over Grandpa's wildest sprinkler, perfect. Margaret, in a flowery dress, flitted around, acting like I'd given her my land. I waved to neighbors, counting down. After lunch, the party was packed. The band played badly, kids jumped in a bounce house, barbecue smelled strong, and the field was full, no grass left. I mingled, hiding grins when people said, "Great spot." As the sun set, I snuck to the shed, hand on the valve. Part of me wondered if it was too much, but then I remembered the kid on my tree and Margaret's snarky laughs. Nope, just right. I turned the valve. Pipes rumbled alive. Back at the field, I sipped lemonade as Margaret gave a speech about herself. Then it happened. A sprinkler exploded under the fancy tent, a 20-foot water blast soaking tables, flowers, and Margaret. Silence, then chaos. More sprinklers shot up like a chain reaction. People ran, chairs fell, food flew. The bounce house flopped, the band's gear sparked, the singer fell. Cars revved, sinking into mud, tires spinning, ruts growing. Margaret, soaked, yelled orders no one heard. People slipped, vendors ran, kids laughed like it was a water slide. I sipped my drink, calm. I could have stopped it early, but I let it run. Every trespasser got wet. When I turned off the valve, the field was a swamp. Tents drooped, cars stuck, party ruined. Margaret stomped over, makeup running, slipping in mud. "What did you do?" she screamed. "Old irrigation kicked on," I said, sipping. She flailed, but I didn't care. The board's panic was worth it. Next morning, the field looked like a battlefield, chairs buried, tire marks deep, tents sagging. From my porch, it was beautiful. Margaret and the board stared at the mess, her muddy dress like a loser's medal. Tow trucks struggled, vendors grabbed scraps, the band yelled at her. No one looked at me. That day, Simon, a quiet board member, knocked, mumbling about a mix-up and asking for cleanup help. I leaned in. Happy to, once the HOA writes they trespassed. He turned pale and left fast. Neighbors gossiped, some mad, others happy. Old-timers tipped hats, one left a pie with a smile. Margaret's bossy days had enemies. She called an emergency meeting, planning a fight, but I had my deed. Grandpa's rule: no public use without a signed lease. There was none. At the meeting, they gave a weak sorry and asked me to pay for cleanup. I slid the deed over. Silence. No lease, no claim, I said. You pay. Simon whispered, we didn't sign anything. I leaned back. Didn't think so. Margaret stormed out, the board nervous. Within a week, the Pine Grove HOA paid for cleanup. Neighbors dug up Margaret's old tricks, finding flowers, banning kids' games. Petitions started and Margaret quit. No one took her job. The HOA turned into friendly cookouts, no more big parties or land grabs. I planted roses along my field and put up a sign, private property, trespassers get wet. Neighbors laughed, some loved my flowers. The field was mine again, quiet, respected. Looking at the valve, I smiled, ready if anyone tried again. A month later, Margaret moved away, her house sold to a kind family who brought cookies to our picnics. Pine Grove felt alive, kids played, gardens grew, no HOA fights. I drank coffee on my porch, watching my field glow green, no cars, no chaos. I didn't want trouble, just my land. When Margaret tried to take it, she forgot who owned the pipes. With a plan, a valve, and a muddy lesson, I took back what was mine, and Pine Grove learned to respect boundaries for good.